Let's start with just kind of the stages of growth. This company's been around since 2017, 2018. As you know, being a co-founder and entrepreneur, it is a full contact sport. Even though you have some great experience understanding this category, and if anyone looks you up, they'll see this guy's got a deep, deep understanding there. And doesn't necessarily mean that it's all going to be rainbows and unicorns as you jump off into OLIPOP.
Ben and I really look at our business as kind of a 10-year venture because OB, our first company, was really version 1.0 of what we're doing now. And it was a really important step in the process. So people do look at what we've done with OLIPOP, and it has been very rapid growth, but it's built off the mistakes and the learnings of our first venture. So Ben and I got together kind of 10 years ago. I just left a corporate career very naively, sort of with a idea that I wanted to do something by myself, but not really sure what that was. I moved to San Francisco. I was actually put in touch with Ben by my old boss at Diageo. When I told her I was quitting, she said, okay, if your mind's made up, you might want to speak to this guy. He's looking for a business partner. And I met Ben at a coffee shop in Palo Alto. He had a bag of sodas with him that he hand decanted them into glass bottles and hand capped them. And I didn't know really anything about the microbiome, probiotics, digestive health. I think at that time, I probably couldn't even read a nutritional label particularly well. And Ben and I spoke for kind of 2 hours. I tried the drinks, they tasted amazing. I knew enough to know that a drink with that much sugar in it shouldn't taste as good as it did. And I was just kind of blown away by his passion for digestive health and his knowledge as well. And so I worked with no salary alongside Ben for kind of a year or so to get that business off the ground. We had about 3 years crashing through hedges, making a ton of mistakes. We managed to get a modest exit from that and a lot of learning. And then a period of self-reflection. Actually, it's very difficult coming from the corporate world into startup, and it's very difficult as an entrepreneur scaling something up. And Ben and I both had stuff to learn. Ben is kind of scaling something for the first time, and from my side, really learning about entrepreneurship and what it means. And the behaviors are very different from what you are taught in a corporate environment. It took me like a good 3 years and a lot of pain to really get to grips with that. And then we had 2 years to reflect on the concept that we'd come up with and how we could refine it, and then launched OLIPOP after that 2 year period. And it was very rapid growth from there, I think, because we had something that we'd really thought through. And we'd also refined our partnership and done some personal growth and self-reflection, and had the humility to say, look, if we're not in sync, then this thing is not going to work. And that was really key because we didn't work together that effectively on OB, in all honesty. We argued a lot about stuff. We're just different people with different perspective, but both entrepreneurial, both strong-willed. And I think that's where a lot of co-founding relationships fall apart inevitably, because you're dealing with quirky personalities, people who are opinionated. We learned to respect one another and listen to one another and learn to be vulnerable with one another as well. Me saying, hey, I don't actually know this. What do you think? And vice versa. And know that the other person wouldn't overstep in that instance. So that was nearly 4 years ago now that we launched OLIPOP. Will be a 100 million revenue brand by the end of the year. We've moved from startup into scale up at this point. And I never sort of really thought about a differentiation or a definition. You just like a startup or you kind of exited, right? But it's very different now from where we were like even 12 months ago. The processes required, the structure, we have a team of over 70 people now. That's very different from when there was like 12 of us. And Ben and I have had to learn and evolve, and it's tricky, to think through what's my role as a co-founder now. It changes probably every 6 months or so, and that's kind of true for the rest of the team too. Their roles are constantly evolving, just given how rapidly the business is changing.
You launched Obi, learned some key things, and you said there was this 2 year period. What was that 2 year period like? That's really interesting.
I think there was a period of some months after OB where we just needed to rest. Like, I think for a lot of people, I speak to a lot of entrepreneurs, and particularly the first time you're doing it, it's just exhausting. It really is. There's so much to learn. It's mentally exhausting. You probably don't have your ego in check, and that's the thing that will really exhaust you as well. It's just too much to absorb, really. And so we just needed to rest for a minute. For that last period of OB, I'm not diagnosed, but I'm pretty confident I was depressed during that period. I just couldn't function properly. I was just burned out. And so there was just kind of reset, get back to good behaviors, like get back to my family, spend some quality time, sleep, just reduce the stress. But then reflecting on that, we were like, look, this thing, we still really believe in the mission of this. This is important to get the benefits of digestive health to a broad audience. We feel like we were onto something because as the acute pain of the entrepreneurial experience kind of drifts away, we did do some cool stuff as well. Like this product did kind of work pretty well in pockets. And we feel like we could do this better. We feel like we're better entrepreneurs. We feel like we can make this product better. And so for Ben and I think one of the things that we strongly align on is doing things well, like really thinking through stuff. And so we weren't just going to kind of rush back to market with any old product. We were like, look, how we set the foundations of this is really key. We need to do this properly. And Ben actually went to Japan for a period, did some research out there. We had connections to some of the leading researchers and microbiologists from our time on OB. And we started looking at the evolution in science around the gut microbiome. And at that time, what was really changing was this shift from a focus on probiotics to prebiotics. I know you said you're kind of pretty up to speed on this, but for anyone that isn't, probiotics are good bacteria. Prebiotics are what probiotics eat. It's the food for the good bacteria. There's a guy out of Stanford called Justin Sonnenberg, done a lot of research in this space, and he had actually looked at hunter-gatherer tribes, some of which you'll still find in parts of Asia and Africa today, that eat a diet similar to what our ancestors would have eaten for hundreds of thousands of years. And they found two major differences between that diet and the industrialized Western diet that we would typically consume. One is the quantity of fiber that they're consuming, over 200 grams a day. We get about 15. And then the diversity of the food types. And a hunter-gatherer would consume about 1,400 different types of food in a year. We're close to 200, which makes sense when you think of like the hybridization in our food system. Everything's made of corn now, right? Like you get chips or whatever, they've got different flavorings on them, but the base ingredients are the same. So we've essentially stripped fiber and nutrient diversity out of our diet, which is very bad news for our gut microbiome, because those are two things it needs. It needs fiber, prebiotics, to feed the bacteria that are already there. And it needs nutrient diversity to feed a range of different bacteria. Diversity is a great thing in your gut. So Ben really started formulating around the product to address those issues. And that's how we got to the sort of OLISmart base of 8 different plant-based ingredients, 9 grams of fiber. It's interesting when you look at soda. I mean, soda is one of the worst offenders in the modern industrial diet, right? It's 40 grams of sugar in a can, no fiber, no nutrient diversity, no nutrients at all, really, apart from the sugar. So flipping that and saying, well, what if we could retain the experience? Because giving up soda is really hard, which we understand. We certainly didn't want to approach people with finger wagging or condescension. I mean, I like soda as well. It tastes great, right? I mean, can of Coke is pretty delicious. It's addictive. It's convenient. It's cheap. And it has really strong cultural relevance in our lives as well. So what if we could retain that, but give people a product that actually supports their health rather than harming it? And that's what Ben set out to do, and it did an incredible job on it. I mean, the thing tastes amazing. He does literally hundreds of experiments on each flavor, and alongside all the work that he's put into the gut health component of it as well, it's really incredible.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching. This segment is brought to you by Salesforce. Salesforce brings marketing and engagement together. If you want to learn more, head over to salesforce.com/marketing. And please subscribe to this channel for more marketing insights from the world's best marketing leaders across the Fortune 500 and beyond.